All right, so today we're going deep, diving deep into a story.
So,
Yeah, a deep dive into a story of uh, power, intrigue,
yeah.
all that good stuff, and a king
Yeah.
who tried to rule even from beyond the grave.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about Henry VIII
Of course.
and his will and testament.
Henry VIII, larger than life figure, 6 wives, and a will that's been debated, for centuries now.
Yeah, it's a fascinating document. It's not just for like what it says about who takes over and all that, but like for what it tells us about
Yeah.
all the stuff that was going on around them.
Yeah, the politics, the machinations, all that.
Exactly.
It's a glimpse.
It's
to the mind of a king at the very end.
Right at the very end of his life.
1547.
Henry's health is failing.
Yeah.
And all of England is on edge.
Can you imagine just the fear, like just the whispers going around, the anticipation hanging in the air?
Oh, yeah. You don't even have to really imagine it.
Yeah.
The sources we have paint a pretty vivid picture.
Yeah, Henry's only 55, but he is just riddled with ailments.
Yeah.
That infamous leg wound, probably osteomyelitis or maybe even a blood clot, who knows? But it had him, practically immobile.
Yeah.
And people were terrified to even speak about the king dying.
I mean, yeah, talk about treasonous whispers.
Oh, for sure.
And in the middle of all of this, we have like this dramatic final moments.
Right.
So we have Sir Anthony Denny.
Yeah.
Who is this trusted figure. He finally like musters up the courage to tell the king, hey, it's time to prepare for the inevitable.
Oh, wow.
And you know what Henry's last recorded words are?
What are they?
I will take a little sleep, and then as I feel myself, I will advise upon the matter.
That's amazing. It's like Shakespeare or something.
I know, it's almost like too perfect.
Yeah, and then the Archbishop of Canterbury, Thomas Cranmer, arrives.
Yeah.
And the king can't even speak, but he manages to do one final gesture, gripping Cranmer's hand.
Just with all his might.
With all his might.
Yeah.
I mean, what was going through his mind right then?
I mean, it's hard to know. I mean, was it a final affirmation of his faith?
Could be.
A desperate attempt to just hold on to life.
Yeah.
I mean, you have this king who's used to absolute power, and he's now like literally facing his own mortality. It's powerful.
Powerful image.
And it really sets the stage for what comes next, right? The unveiling of the will.
The will and testament.
That he clearly hoped would shape the future of England.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Because, unlike other monarchs who might focus on divvying up their possessions, Henry's will is almost entirely obsessed with one thing: succession.
Well, he had a son, right, Edward? So
he did.
What's all the fuss about?
Well, think about it. This guy, Henry, he'd gone to extraordinary lengths to secure his dynasty.
Yeah.
He had daughters declared illegitimate. His illegitimate son had died.
Right.
Edward was young. The future was uncertain. This will was Henry's attempt to control the future, even from the grave.
Wow.
He laid out 8 different succession scenarios.
8.
Even including potential heirs from future wives.
He was planning on having more wives, even on his deathbed.
That's Henry.
Talk about ambition.
Yeah, he was Henry VIII to the very end.
That's incredible.
It really shows his character, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
This unyielding ambition, even as he's facing his own death.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough to name Edward the heir.
Right.
He had to outline contingencies for Mary, for Elizabeth, even for his niece's children.
Wow.
Just to make sure that his line continued no matter what.
So to execute this grand plan, he appoints 16 executors.
Yeah, a whole team to carry out his wishes.
What did that look like in practice?
Well, these executors, they had some serious responsibilities.
Oh, yeah.
Paying off debts, managing the Regency Council until Edward came of age.
Yeah.
And upholding the overall shitty.
Shitty?
Yeah, that's how it's spelled in the original document.
Huh. Even powerful kings had spelling quirks.
Well, it was a different time.
I guess so, but beyond the, the grand scheme of succession, there were some, personal touches too, right?
Oh, of course, he left money and property to Mary and Elizabeth.
Oh, that's nice of him.
But there's a catch.
What's the catch?
They had to get their marriages approved by the Privy Council.
Ah.
Even from the grave, he was trying to control their lives.
Always the controlling father.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But he did at least make sure his last wife, Catherine Parr, was taken care of.
Yeah, he left a very generous provision for Catherine.
Good for her.
Probably, a sign of their close relationship.
Yeah, maybe so. We have this meticulously crafted will.
Yeah.
It seems to lay out, Henry's vision for the future of England.
It does.
But as you mentioned earlier, This is where the controversy begins.
Exactly.
Like, was this really Henry's will, or was there something else going on?
Yeah.
Was this ailing king manipulated?
Especially in his weakened state.
Yeah.
That is the question that's been fascinating historians for centuries now.
It is.
Was this document, a product of Henry's own thinking, or was it this carefully orchestrated power grab by the people around him?
Right. And to really start to unpack that, we need to look at these two prominent figures who are conspicuously absent from the will.
Yes.
Bishop Stephen Gardiner.
Oh, yeah.
And Thomas Howard, the Duke of Norfolk.
Powerful men.
Powerful men in Henry's court.
Yeah.
And their exclusion is...
It raises eyebrows.
It really does raise eyebrows.
Yeah.
So what's the story there?
Well, to understand that, you really have to understand the court politics of the time.
Yeah.
You had these two loosely defined factions.
Okay.
You had the conservatives like Gardiner and Norfolk.
Right.
They kind of leaned towards traditional Catholic beliefs.
Right.
And then you had the evangelicals who favored more religious reform.
So you've got this like religious power struggle kind of simmering beneath the surface.
Yeah, just under the surface.
So did the evangelicals push out their rivals to gain control?
That's where things get really interesting, this idea of a power grab by the evangelicals.
Yeah. This is where it gets good.
Yeah, this is where it gets good. It's tempting, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
This idea of like, this big power grab.
Right.
But to really get what happened, we have to look at the evidence.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's start with Gardiner.
Okay.
In late 1546, he kind of clashed with Henry over a land exchange.
So like a property dispute.
Yeah, basically.
Is that a thing back then?
Oh, yeah. It wasn't unusual for the monarch to like request land from, powerful figures and offer what we might call a symbolic payment in return.
So basically, give me your land or else.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
And Gardiner, he's known for being a bit stubborn.
Okay.
He balked at the request.
Really?
He insisted on a face-to-face meeting with Henry to negotiate.
Oh, he told Henry VIII, let's make a deal.
Yeah. Not the wisest move?
No.
Considering Henry's personality?
No kidding.
So Henry was furious.
Oh, I bet.
Accused Gardiner of deceit.
Wow.
Basically told him to, like, conform or face the consequences.
So was this orchestrated by the evangelicals to get rid of him?
That's what some historians think.
Yeah.
They point to William Paget.
Oh, yeah.
Henry's chief secretary.
Right.
And a suspected evangelical as, like, the mastermind.
Okay. Yeah.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
Paget was actually a protege of Gardiner.
Really?
Yeah. He owed his career to the very man he supposedly helped topple.
So the guy who orchestrated his downfall was his own protege.
It's a little suspicious, isn't it?
Yeah, that doesn't seem very likely.
So, Paget definitely had the means to forge letters, influence Henry's opinion.
Right.
But it seems unlikely that he would betray his mentor.
Yeah.
So completely.
So maybe Gardiner was just a victim of his own stubbornness.
Maybe.
Pushed the wrong buttons.
Maybe he just pushed the wrong buttons.
With a king who wasn't exactly known for his patience.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
Occam's razor.
Yeah.
The simplest explanation is often the most likely.
Right. Okay, so what about Norfolk?
Norfolk.
Yeah.
His story is even more dramatic.
Okay.
It's tied up with the downfall of his son.
Oh, yeah.
The Earl of Surrey.
Right. The poet, the hothead.
Yeah. Always a dangerous combination.
Especially with Henry VIII.
Especially with Henry.
So what happened?
Well, Surrey made two big mistakes.
Okay.
First, he openly campaigned for his father to be regent, which was a direct challenge to Henry's succession plan.
Right.
And second, he committed like a major offense.
Okay.
In the world of Tudor symbolism.
We're talking heraldry, right?
Yeah. Family crests, coats of arms, all that.
Okay, so what did he do? Wear the wrong colors to a banquet?
Not quite, but almost as bad.
Okay.
He combined the royal arms with his own family's coat of arms, implying a claim to the throne.
Yeah, that's not good.
In a world where symbols meant everything,
right,
this was practically treason.
Yikes.
Yeah, so Surrey basically painted a target on his own back.
Yeah, he did.
So did the evangelicals use this to get rid of him and his father?
I mean, it seems like the perfect opportunity.
It does, but once again, the evidence suggests otherwise.
Oh, really?
The sources we have show that Henry himself was deeply involved in Surrey's investigation.
Wow.
He edited the interrogation questions himself.
No way.
And he was clearly enraged
Yeah.
by what he saw as a betrayal.
So this wasn't some shadowy plot.
Yep.
This was Henry.
This was Henry,
Control.
even in his weakened state,
Wow.
reacting to a threat to his power.
So while the exclusion of Gardner and Norfolk is interesting,
Yeah, it's definitely intriguing.
it seems more likely they were victims of their own actions
Right, their own ambitions.
rather than some grand conspiracy.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about these missing figures, but there's another piece of this puzzle, isn't there?
There is
The signature on the will.
the signature.
There's been a lot of talk about a dry stamp being used.
Right.
What's that all about?
Well, by 1545, Henry's health was so bad
Yeah.
that signing documents was a huge ordeal.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So they came up with this system.
Okay.
They used a stamp
Wow.
with a copy of his signature,
Really?
and designated clerks were authorized to use it.
So basically, officially sanctioned forgeries.
Pretty much, yeah.
That seems incredibly risky.
It was a bold move.
Yeah.
But to make sure it was all legal,
Yeah.
each document signed with the stamp
Okay.
was carefully recorded
Okay.
in a register.
Right.
And Henry himself signed this register every month.
Okay, so a system of checks and balances.
Exactly.
But wouldn't that stamp make it easier to forge the will?
After Henry died.
Yeah.
That's what some historians argue. They
Yeah.
say that the will was registered
Yeah.
in the January 1547 records,
Yeah.
not December 1546 when it was supposedly signed.
So a discrepancy in the dates, could that be evidence of tampering?
Maybe, but if someone was trying to hide a forgery,
Yeah.
they did a terrible job.
Okay.
The will's entry in the January register
Yep.
is super prominent.
Okay.
It's more likely they just wanted to be extra careful,
Okay.
given the circumstances,
Right.
and ensure its validity.
Right. So belt and suspenders approach.
Exactly.
But some historians still say that certain clauses.
In the will,
Yeah.
specifically those giving the executors broad powers,
Yeah.
were later additions.
Okay.
But that theory has been pretty thoroughly debunked.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the handwriting analysis shows no signs of tampering.
Okay.
And remember, forging the king's will
Yeah.
was incredibly dangerous.
Yeah. You're messing with the big guy.
Huge risk for
Well-
very uncertain reward.
Yeah. So it seems like while the dry stamp raises questions,
Yeah,
the evidence points to a genuine document.
it does.
This has been fascinating.
Yeah, it has been.
Really a deep dive into Tudor politics.
Yeah, all the drama.
Conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
If Henry went to all this trouble
Yeah.
to lay out his vision for England,
Right.
what happened?
Yeah.
Did it work?
Well, that's where the irony comes in.
Ah.
Henry, the man who was so controlling,
Right.
so meticulous in planning for his death,
Yeah.
he ultimately couldn't control what happened next.
Oh, no. So all that planning, all those
Yeah.
contingencies, and it didn't matter.
Yeah, pretty much Henry's executors, the guys he trusted to carry out his wishes, they just ignored his idea of a council.
Oh, wow. So the
Yeah.
council, the thing designed to ensure stability.
Yeah. To guide young Edward,
Yeah.
just cast aside.
Just like that.
Yeah, Henry's attempt to rule from beyond the grave
Yeah.
failed.
It's kind of, I don't know.
It is a paradox.
That's a paradox. Yeah.
Yeah.
This king who breaks with Rome
Yeah.
dissolves monasteries.
Executes people left and right.
And he couldn't even control who was on his own council.
It's wild, isn't it?
It really is. It makes you think, we spend our lives,
Making plans,
making plans, trying to,
control things.
shape the world around us, but
But there are these forces
that we just can't control.
beyond our control.
Yeah. And Henry's will is just proof of that.
It really is.
It gives us a glimpse into the mind of a king.
Yeah.
His worries, his ambitions,
Yeah.
that desperate need to create order.
Yeah.
But it also shows the limits of power.
Even for a king.
Yeah. I mean, that's a humbling thought.
It is.
Even Henry VIII, with all his
I
might and influence,
couldn't escape that simple fact.
that we can't control what happens after we're gone.
Nope.
It's a story that still means something today,
It does.
centuries later.
Centuries later.
It reminds us that history is full of surprises
Absolutely.
and that even the best plans can get totally upended.
Yeah. By ambition, by time, by all sorts of things.
Well said, India. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive
It has been.
into Henry VIII's last will and testament,
Yeah, a journey through Tudor politics.
conspiracy theories.
And the mystery of a king trying to rule from the grave.
What do you think?
Yeah, what are your thoughts on all this?
Do you think the will shows us what Henry really wanted? Or is there something else going on?
Head over to our social media.
Yeah,
Share your theories with us.
we want to hear them.
We'd love to hear what you think about these historical puzzles.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed this trip back to the Tudor era,
Make sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive.
For more fascinating explorations
Into history's mysteries.
Until next time.
See you then!